Today, old school RuneScape finally welcomes a new boss to the God Wars dungeon. That boss is Nex. Nex was one of the closest followers of an ancient god, but was imprisoned by the forces of Saradomin. That prison has since become vulnerable, allowing us to once again take on this powerful deity, and potentially acquire some of the new best-in-slot items that it will drop, which I'll talk about in a little bit. In order to gain access to the ancient prison that contains Nex, you first have to kill all of the other 4 God Wars bosses to get frozen key fragments. Now, it seems like these key pieces are a 100% drop rate, but you do need to get and combine all 4 in order to gain access to the ancient prison and fight Nex. You only need to have the key with you once, because once you use it to enter the frozen door, which is located directly south of the God Wars entrance, it goes away. You only need it the first time. Upon entry, you are greeted by... I'm going to try... Ashalot Race, a follower of Guthix, who explains Nex's whole situation to you and gives you some more of the lore. From this point on, it's a pretty typical God Wars experience. You have to slay 40 followers of Zeros in order to gain access to Nex's prison and fight the boss. Now, when you're running through here, you can use an ancient item, or an item affiliated with the ancient gods in order to gain protection, just like the other 4 bosses. And the minions here do drop the ancient ceremonial robes like back in 2011, and they are in the collection log, but they don't offer the same ability to bypass getting KC, so you still have to do that. The Zeros minions are all really powerful, but luckily for us, the KC is bypassable by using an ecumenical key from the Wildy God Wars dungeon, which is definitely going to be a huge time save. And also, my friends and I found out later that since the worlds are pretty populated right now, you get KC very, very fast from the boss room itself, and can just teleport out to go directly to the bank outside and use the KC you obtained in the room to go right back in. Now at this point, I was going to sit here and explain how the fight worked. It is very similar to how it worked back in RS2 in 2011. There's a couple different phases. There's minions in the corner you have to kill that represent all of the different variations of ancient spells, like smoke, blood, ice, and shadow. But currently, the worlds are so populated that the mechanics literally do not matter. If you can wear a rune crossbow and ruby bolts and you can gain access to Nex, just go in and start shooting it with ruby bolts, because that or both are pretty much your only options of doing damage right now, and you're just desperately hoping you get lucky enough to get a drop. Now, of course, why bother going through all this trouble to kill a really difficult boss or go to a world right now where they're all packed and it's all masses? What's the point? Well, for the first time in a very, very long time, we are finally getting some new best-in-slot items to replace things that have been best-in-slot for basically the entirety of old school RuneScape. The first and probably most notable big best-in-slot upgrade is the Torva Armor Set. Now the set consists of a full helm plate body and a pair of plate legs. It offers better offensive and defensive capabilities than the Bandos set, but obviously doesn't match up to defensively like Justiciar does. However, Bandos has been best in slot in old school since I think 2013, so it's taken almost 8 years, or a little over 8 years, for us to finally get a new best in slot melee armor. And in my opinion, one of the best parts is that the Torva set actually drops as broken and unequipable, so you don't really get to immediately wear it. You might be thinking, oh, how many coins does it cost to repair? Well, luckily for us, it's actually an item sync. You need to repair the Torva with components from the Bandos Armor Set. The chest plate breaks down into 3 components, and Tassets breaks down into 2. It's a good item sync. It should increase the cost of Bandos pretty substantially, as you guys can probably already see based on the market graphs. Now, one set of Bandos, a chest plate, and Tassets will give you 5 components, and luckily for us, 5 components is exactly how much you need to make the full Torva set. The helm only needs 1, the chest plate needs 2, and the plate legs also need 2. You can break down the Bandos. I believe in the ancient prison itself, there is a furnace around where all the minions are. So if you're going to do that, make sure that you take an ancient item with you. If you want to repair the Torva set, you also need level 90 smithing. Now, compared to the stuff we have right now, the Torva full helm has 2 higher melee strength than the upgraded Neats helm. The Torva plate body has 2 higher melee strength than the Bandos chest plate. And the Torva plate legs have 2 higher melee strength than Bandos Tassets, on top of all of the increased defense bonuses. So these things are actually pretty noteworthy. A 6 strength gain for the whole set is pretty big. That's at least 1 max hit. It's going to be several max hits with a scythe. Definitely very nice. Now, speaking of items that have been best in slot for a very long time and are finally getting replaced, Barrows Gloves, as of today's update, are no longer the best in slot gloves for range, because today, the Sailrite Vambraces have trumped that. They have a whopping 18 ranged accuracy, as well as they are the first gloves to offer range strength, which comes in at 2. Now that might not sound that high, but 2 range strength is actually a pretty big deal, and will probably result in max hits for several weapons. 2 range strength doesn't sound like a lot, but it's the same difference from going from an Ava's Accumulator to an Ava's Assembler. So, if you want some perspective, maybe that'll help. The last best in slot item that next drops is the Sailrite Crossbow, which is a new best in slot crossbow that requires 80 range to wield and can fire all kinds of bolts, obviously. Now, that might not sound that crazy, but it actually comes with some pretty interesting passive and special attacks. It's important to keep in mind that, at least as of right now, and as of how it existed in 2011, crossbows were very powerful against Nex, so this probably is going to be a best in slot at Nex herself. But the special attack of the Sailrite Crossbow consumes 75% of the special attack bar, and for one shot will guarantee the special effect of enchanted bolts to occur, assuming you pass the accuracy check. So this means that you will guarantee hit a ruby bolt, if that's what you're going for, as long as you have range gear on and pass the accuracy check. So that's pretty nice. 75% spec to potentially hit a 100. But that's not all. It's not only going to hit a 100, it's going to hit a 110, thanks to the passive effect of the Sailrite Crossbow. This passive effect is that it strengthens the effects of enchanted bolts by 10%. So, the special effect would deal 22% with the ruby bolt instead of the usual 20%. Which increases the cap by an additional 10 hit points. This is true for everything else. It means your diamond bolts are more likely to go off as well. I'm not really sure outside of Nex how useful that's going to be, but at least for Nex itself, it'll be useful. I do have some buy offers in the Grand Exchange right now to try and get some of this stuff. I don't know if they will buy, but I did actually see the item that is required to create the crossbow drop when I was doing some Nex stuff with my friends, so maybe these drops are not going to be as rare as we all think they are. In all likelihood, though, they're probably going to stay insanely expensive for a while, or at least until people figure out how to do the boss or don't have to mass it. And since I don't take donations or loans, it would hurt to lose like 3 or 4 bill for the purpose of a single video. But let's move on to a couple of the other drops that aren't really best in slot, like the Ancient Godsword. Now, to be fair, I can't think of a single use for this thing outside of maybe some super niche PvM activities, but just like other God Swords, it has a special attack, and that special attack is called Blood Sacrifice. You target an individual with double the accuracy, and if it lands, it deals a normal hit with 10% extra damage. After that, an 8-cycle timer starts. If the target does not move more than 5 tiles in those 8 ticks, they'll be hit for 25 damage, and the attacker gets healed 25 HP. So I don't really know where you'd use that besides PvP, but hey, it'll be cool in PvP. The other somewhat interesting thing that next drops is called Blood Essence, and basically all this does is you use it when you're crafting blood runes, and it ends up giving you extra blood runes up to 1,000 before it caps out. Nothing too special there. That's all I got for next, though. This is a fantastic update. I'm very happy to finally see another new boss in the game. Let's just hope that the drop rates aren't too crazy. If you guys enjoy this video, definitely make sure you leave a like letting me know if you're going to take on Nex yourself, and subscribe to the channel. Peace out and have a fantastic rest of your day.